So just a couple of pieces of business I want to get out of the way real quick. First off, we have a presentation about the Johnson Plaza that would come up during community development. If all members of council are okay, the thought would be maybe we move community development to the end of all the other committees, that way all the other committees can handle their business. And then there's the undivided attention to be able to have a presentation and ongoing conversation about the plaza, if everyone is agreeable with that, as the course of action for this evening. The other thing I want to do before I forget, I received a phone call today from Anita Combs, and it was referencing our emails. Many of us are using our own private emails. I know I've done that for years, but the website has posted our city emails. So she was asking me what I thought, and I'm like, well, it's what council thinks. So I wanted to come to you guys and see how we wanted to handle that. Did we want everyone to continue to use just the city email? Did we want to start posting our private personal emails that we may be using? Anita's concern, though, is if you post your personal email as your official email for the business of the city, then it becomes subject to public record requests and everything that's in that email box. So like I said, I would discuss it with you guys and see what your opinion was. We'd also spoken about there being a possibility we'd have to get with President Eisnick about having someone from BPI, which is our IT company, to come in and maybe show us where the login is to make sure we're all set up. I figured with there being so many of us, it might be just easier for them to come to one of our meetings and do it all in one fell swoop instead of individually trying to call it. So some feedback, what you'd like me to relay, or Mr. Green?
I like the idea of having someone from BPI come in. I personally have been using my personal email address, but because I haven't been able to get access to the city, my one is located on the city site, so I would get help with that, get that set up, and then I would start using that going forward. I think it'd be a good idea to have them. And I think it'd be good to have a standard across the council.
I would say the same because I have, now this is my third term, never been able to get email from the city email address. Therefore, I've had to default to my personal. So if they can get that fixed and hopefully that IT area can help us with that.
And that's, I think, because I've experienced that same issue, and that's why I think they just haven't come to go and tell them those issues that we're having. We're not in the office every day, so we don't have that same contact. So, is everybody else in agreement with that?
Yeah. You say on the web, is there a way on the website to log in?
Here's
Here's what I went and I bought a cheap tablet because I don't want it forwarded to a private email. Somebody wants a public record, I'm going to give it to them.
You need your microphone.
That's for the city. So I got the number for BPI and had them send my city email directly to this device, which is the only thing I do the city business on, and I think that's the right. Anybody can do what they want, but I think that's appropriate.
And she's going to be meeting with BPI tomorrow anyway, because she has to come over and help me do you guys' email on the website, because who we had previously hosting our website we no longer have. And I think in a couple of weeks or so, the whole website is going to be revamped anyway. But there is a way, like I have it in my Microsoft, I have you guys listed as Ward 1, Ward 2, Ward 3, Ward 5, 6, and at large, but I have your personal email there. So that's what we're going to try to transfer to the website.
And that's why she called me before it went on the website. I figured, she figured we could have this conversation.
Right.
No, who's this Ms. Lyson? Mrs. Lyson from the plan.
She'll be here for the meeting on the 21st. 21st.
We don't think she gets back from vacation.
No, I don't.
I just feel like this is probably something that would fall more into Claudette Lee being president of council, so I just want to make sure we get her apprised as soon as she's back in town and let her take that lead. Any more discussion? I told Ms. Combs I would call her back, so the general deal is that we want to stick to the city email and to let these guys know that, and then we're getting in touch with President Eisnick. The only other thing I just want to knock out real quick, so we can do this quickly. We do have some resolutions
Parks and Rec and see if they'll come up and do ID badges for the new council members next Tuesday.
You are.
You have one? Okay. So, Mark, do you have? Mark, Ted, and Nancy. You have yours? Okay. So it's just,
I don't know.
you never got one? Okay, so it's still, okay.
I'm assuming there'll be an email communication about that then.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. All right, so we're starting with environmental, just go down the list. When I call your committee, if you have any business in your committee that you'd like to discuss, your committee will be on. Environmental.
That's me. What is it? What is it? I don't know.
There's nothing that's
Health, welfare, building regulation.
Thank you, Mr. President. Oh, I'm sorry. At this time, I'd like to call up Dave Nally to go over this, the ordinance with us, please. Any questions for Mr. Nally?
Okay, this is a kind of a retake on our last year's ordinance that we tabled. We had a lot of different iterations of the last ordinance. You guys remember change here and there. We went back to some of the basics here. If you look at the ordinance, basically A through E are the same as the current ordinance. F change, I'm going to give you a brief highlight of what we did. F added chapter 130703, which is part of building maintenance code. Section B, it talks about building owners taking care of surrounding common areas, sidewalks, driveways, etc. In section G, it talks about one of the changes we did have from the original with regards to it being 6 feet, I'm sorry, from what we did last year, was 6 feet clearance from the closest construction, that's in section 1. Section 2, G2, was talking about objects outside of the businesses, can only be out there between December 1st and March 1st. Section 3 talks about tables and chairs must be removed between March 1st or December 1st and March 1st. Section 8 talks about more of the fencing issue with regards to restaurants that are required to have approval from the Ohio Department of Liquor Control under 1. Minimum standards with regards to these outdoor facilities and must be approved by the building department under number 2. Number 3 talks about the height of the fencing, which is 36 to 48 inches in metal, black in color. And I know we had some discussion on that issue quite a bit with regards to different colors, so we just went back to black. Under number 4, it talks about not encroaching into the 5-foot clearance area density. Section 5 talks about if there's gates, there's easy where's the exit on the gate. Section 6 talks about any lighting must be low voltage and white color, and section 7 talks about tables and chairs must also be secured within a 5-foot clearance area. And then we basically have the same language with regards to misdemeanor violation, and then we also added for the building, code enforcement that the notice may be first class or handle other. That's basically the new language that's been added in this particular request. Jim Johnson is also here to answer any questions. I think we have some other people that might be able to answer some questions.
Mrs. Lippman?
Yes, I have 2 questions. First, when you're looking at 521.04F, how are we going to have the business owners be aware of Chapter 1307.03G? Are you got that in this ordinance that they're going to be made aware of this? What is our process to do so?
I would ask Mr. Johnson to come up, he's the one that had that specific language.
I do have another question then as well. We've changed from 6 feet to 5 feet. Our prior, okay, do we have I guess, a compliancy for, I don't know if it's the ADA, that would make sure that there's sufficient room for wheelchair?
That is ADA 5, we already checked on that, I think it is 5 feet for ADA compliance. Also, we have another individual, John, if that's incorrect, please.
No, you're correct.
Yeah, it is correct.
It is the
5 feet from any obstruction?
That's correct, yeah. There has to be, I'm sorry, there has to be a room for a 5-foot turn. So 3 foot is the actual minimum width of a passageway, but anywhere on a public street, they have to be able to turn around and go the other way, which takes 5 feet for a wheelchair. Sure.
First of all, good evening. The section F says owners and agents must be aware. It doesn't say we'll make them aware, number one, but all of our ordinances are online, and that ordinance is online, so they are free to look that up. And what we are referring to there is snow removal.
I mean, I can read it to you actually, what the section B is, but Jim's correct. Just one of the things that I know, that's why we added it in.
Is that the only thing that's addressed in that section?
It says that the owner of every building or structure where the authorization shall be responsible for maintaining a clean, safe, and sanitary condition of shared or common areas of the premises, including all yards, walks, driveways, and parking lots, including the public sidewalk area adjoining the building on the public right of way. The owner or his authorization shall be responsible for snow and ice removal, rubbish removal, and other obvious activities relative to the maintenance of the safe and sanitary structure.
The reason I ask that as well is there's been a few business owners that have asked the city to remove debris from their own sidewalks outside of their businesses. So this would put the burden on the business owner to remove any leaves or debris that would be in front of their.
I would think so.
Mrs. Kramer?
Just to clarify, this draft, this document we have in front of us, I know we worked on verbiage with the last council through 2 or 3 committee meetings. There was a lot of discussion. So what I have in front of me is a new draft based on previous discussion with previous council, or a new draft based on a new discussion with new individuals.
It's not a discussion with new individuals. I think it's just, I mean, we really never came to any conclusion on what we were doing.
Right.
So that's what makes it difficult. Yeah, we had, and there was nothing ever agreed to. We had talked about doing this, like I said, we had talked about doing, I think it was brown, gray, black fencing. The height was talked about. I mean, there's a lot of different things that we talked about. So, I mean, it was very difficult to try to kind of, so what I thought I'd do is just, we wanted to bring back something to start, and this is what we thought the best starting place. If there needs to be some, changes, and they can be discussed.
Okay, I haven't had time to review and compare this to a previous document. I know you cited,
Yeah.
certain changes, but I just wanted to make sure I'm going to be comparing the right document to a previous one.
That's,
Thanks.
Mr. Cleary?
Yeah, last week I talked to all the business owners along the strip there, and one of the things that they did bring up was the question about the trash cans coming back. Was there some movement to move those again? Because that does help keeping that.
exactly, that's something we just discussed actually today.
Good.
But we will be getting some type of trash facility for trash cans for receptacles as soon as we can.
And one other point, while walking through there, we had all these clearance issues, but the curb now is only like a foot away from the bushes and things that are going to be planted in here. How can you open your car into a door and get out on 1 foot strip of sidewalk. Is that still ADA compliant?
I should not address
Yeah,
it,
it's
I would
very
think it is,
clumsy.
but I know we have somebody from our engineering department here that may be able to address it. I think we would not have done it.
Yeah. The landscape designer accounted for that, and plants have been selected purposely to allow for geothermal cover. However, it has been discussed and checked. Originally.
Any comment from my committee, Mr. Omally? Mr. Hurricane? Mrs. Whitman?
There was another discussion from a business owner as far as the bump outs. And would the business that is closest to the bump out be the only business that could partake in the use of that area? Or is there any thought to have there be a common area? And I don't know if this would fall under this or not, or it'd have to be in addition to it. But that was a question that a few of the business owners have asked that are, one, either on a bump out or not on a bump out, and may want to use that, or if it would be available to use as somewhat of a common area. I guess I'm thinking that even as a lunch area, that anyone during the summer, if they were ordering from Smiley's, they could walk down to the common area and have lunch outside.
That'd probably be something the engineer department could answer to, but I think that's not something we have to discuss. I don't think anybody's thought about that.
May I ask?
I don't have, yeah, I don't have the answer for that. I don't know, I guess that would be a mention between the two business owners. Have frontage and one user, that has anything to do with planning to design.
So I guess the question is, does the business that has the bump out, is that potentially theirs to use? And if any other business would want to use it, they'd have to have the approval of the business with the bump out.
That'd be my assumption, but I can't make that call. But I mean, the whole plan was whoever's in front, right in front of your building is the area for your outdoor patio. If you have the bump out, you have more room, then you have more room. But if it's in front of your business, if you want to work something out. that'd be-
Yeah.
Sure.
Anything else? I'm going to sign this.
And
What?
Got it, yeah.
Oh, Mr. Lewis?
We have language in there, and I know this existing language has been around for a while, that says no material between December 1 and March 1. I was wondering if we'd be open to adding something about weather. You know, we just had that random 70-degree day or whatever in January. For a business, they could have set up tables outside, they could have done all kinds of things. I wonder if we could do like a December 1 through March 1 below 40 degrees, or something like that. Because really the whole point is snow and ice removal. So if it's warm enough, we're not concerned with whether or not they have anything out there. It's more about we need to make sure, which is funny because we also put the snow and ice removal on them, but we can discuss that later. I don't know if I'm digging it over too hard, but I did have a couple business owners say, hey, you know, for 3 months I don't get to get out on the sidewalk when really the weather might be allowing it.
Okay, again, I'm signing this to bring forward the first reading on Monday night. And, country, Mr. Carter, and sign also. That's all I have.
I wanted, real quick before there was a question that came up before I wanted to move forward, just so that we all are on the same page. When we look at requests for legislation, you're going to notice that you have a committee chairperson approval. That line is the signature to accept emergency language on legislation. And in the bottom margin of the request, whether that be on page 1 or 2, is where you would sign to put it on the agenda, so there's no confusion for anyone that might not be familiar. civil service.
Thank you. Mr. President, I do have a couple items. One carryover from last week that Councilwoman Sterrett was gracious enough to handle for me since I couldn't be here. It's regarding a resolution appointing Frank J. Monaco and David Lundquist to the local board of tax review created under codified ordinance 181.18. I think to call tax director Cory Warren to the microphone.
Good evening, everyone. Last week you had made a request, that the two people that were nominated would attend. Mr. Monaco was out of the office today and could not attend, but Mr. Lundquist is here, so if you want to stand, Mr. Lundquist, that would be great. He is a CPA, and he does have an accounting practice in the city of Massillon, and he has been on the board. He will be a renewal, so I don't know if you have any questions for him or you just wanted me to introduce him, but he was gracious enough to come tonight, and we thank you for that.
I add my thanks, Mr. Monaco, for coming to the meeting tonight.
That's Mr.
I'm sorry,
Lundquist.
I'm sorry, Mr. Lundquist, for coming to the meeting tonight. Would you like to address council and give any type of background that you've had?
Not necessarily. I've been on the board before, and of course, the only time that we ever meet is if we have somebody that would have us to review their tax liability, or if they think that there's a question as to what their liability is for municipal income taxes, we are there to review that for them.
Thank you. Any questions from council?
Yeah, Mr. Lundquist does make a good point there. The tax board is as needed, so it's not a every month, every quarter type of board. It's an as needed board, so.
And will Mr. Monaco be coming before council?
I'm going to try to get him here next week. I will email you to let you know.
Okay. Thank you. So that will be up for first reading on Monday. And unless there are any objections, I'm planning to bring it forward for a vote at that time so we can get them appointed and moving along. Second item I have, pardon? Second reading, I'm sorry, that was first reading. Still missing a day. The next item is a request, please prepare legislation to amend ordinance number 9-2000, I'm sorry. Yeah, number 9-2012, section 1, subsection F, as follows. Each employee of the employer shall contribute toward the cost of health insurance benefit provided to the employee an amount equal to 15% of the monthly cost to the employer by way of payroll deduction, except for months when an employee wellness program rebate is generated by the insurance company. Said rebate will be shared 50% with the city and employee. The legislation is passing is under emergency language. The reason is a rebate will be received from Medical Mutual by the end of the first quarter. Anybody from the city like to address? Safety Service Director Sylvester, thank you.
Good evening. The portion of the request for legislation, which is in conjunction, Debbie Blanc and I put together, the portion to be amended is where it reads, except for months when employee wellness program is generated by insurance company, and we will receive a rebate. So the original ordinance basically stated the 15% deduction, and Debbie Blanc contacted our state auditors, and they make the recommendation that we make the amendment then if we are going to be receiving a rebate back. And we will be receiving a rebate back from Medical Mutual through their wellness program, which is I'm sure many of you are well aware of for the wellness programs. And I would like to say that our healthcare committee did an outstanding job with this wellness program and reaching out to all of our employees. And we do have a lot of dedicated, hardworking employees in our city. And they had the same attitude and did a great job of commitment towards this wellness program as well, to, to be able to get the rebate back, to assist, again, our taxpayers as well as our employees. I don't know how much information you want on the wellness program. Yes?
Yes, I would ask, what has the employee had to do to make us eligible for the rebate?
I have a brochure here from the wellness company through Medical Mutual. I'll pass this out to all of you.
I guess my point would be, has the employee had to do something in order for us to be eligible for that?
Yes, you'll see the handout that's coming around, and there are 3 different levels. Our employees, through, again, their commitment, dedication, we met level 2. And so level 2, basically, there were a lot of requirements as far as participation, as far as wellness checks, as far as how they scored on the health checks. And you'll see there that we had to meet all the requirements of level 1, and we also met the requirements of level 2. So we had to have 75% participation in the health check and well-being assessments. We also had to have 75% participation in the digital adoption, where people had to go online, register, get onto the portal, watch videos, basically take assessments of their health and well-being. We also had to pass 3 out of the 5 health checks. So, through the health checks, there was the cholesterol check, the A1C checks, and so forth. So we had to have, a large number of people who passed that. And we also had to incur a loss ratio of less than 90%. So that is outstanding for a group of participants to do that. So as you can see there, then the rebate basically will be 50% of 1 month's premium. And our average premiums for last year was, the monthly average was $319,000 per month. So we have not received the final rebate numbers from Medical Mutual yet. We met with our broker, the auditor's office, and myself, and they had to close out everything through December, and we should be hearing from them sometime in January. But again, once we get the rebate back, we wanted to have the ordinance amended in time for the rebate to come back. So 50% of that would be about $160,000 rebate.
Councilman Creamer?
These are approximate figures. Please don't hold me exactly to that, because again, we don't have them here, but Debbie and I thought it would be good to address everything at the same time.
Okay, so that was question number 1, so we're looking at approximately $160,000, possibly, if that's what they come back. How will you distribute, like it's stated that the rebate will be shared 50% with city employees. So how will you distribute that amount to the employee?
The distribution will go back to the employees then according to what classification that they are in. So if they are, claiming and paying premium portions towards a single classification, then their premium will be reported back to them at those same rates. And same.
Previously, just discussions, is that dollar amount taxable to the employee?
This will not be. We did check into that as well, too.
Because I know we talked about that.
Correct,
previously.
yes.
All right, thanks.
So you're correct.
Councilman Lemon?
This says said rebate will be shared 50% with the city and employees. Is it 50% to the city, 50% to the employees?
Yes.
So the city will take 50% of that rebate and put it into their general fund?
I'll let Debbie answer that portion since the auditor's office.
The rebate will come back to us in the form of our invoice from Medical Mutual. So instead of receiving a $319,000 invoice, we're going to receive a $150,000 invoice. So that's, it won't be physical that you'll see it, it'll just be in the form of a reduced invoice. As for the employees, it will be a reduction in their paycheck will be less. So they won't really physically get a check or see any money, it's just that their health deduction will be lower.
What was the thought process in dividing it 50% the city, 50% the employee? When the employees had to do the work to get when the employee has had to do the work to get the rebate?
I mean, I think the administration.
I can answer that. Basically, because at this point in time, the employees only pay 15% of the premiums. The city pays the majority of the premiums.
Any other questions or comments? You might as well stay there. I have another item that's related. Please prepare legislation authorizing the auditor, the mayor, and the president of the health department, board of the city of Massillon, Ohio, to enter into a contract with local government before services to compile the basic financial statement for the city of Massillon Health Department for financial year end December 31st, 2019. See the attached contract from local government services, LGS, dated December 19, 2019. The legislation is considered emergency. The reason for that is the contract from Ohio Auditor of State received 12/23/19 and is due 1/3/2020. A phone call has been made and they are aware that the contract will be sent upon council approval.
I'm referring questions to the auditor's office.
Any questions or comments on this for the auditor's office? David, do you have anything that you'd like to add to this? It also looks like it needs to be passed as soon as possible.
Yeah, that would be great. The reason this came about is in 2018, the state required that our health department be audited and be a separate entity. So when they put together their contract for us, it didn't include the audit piece for the health. So that's why you see a $3,000 contract for them to do the gap conversion for the health department.
Any comments, questions? Okay, that'll be up for, on the agenda for Monday, and I will plan to bring it forward for a vote. And that's all I have.
All right, streets, highways. All right, fine. The first piece we have in finance is please prepare legislation authorizing the law director to enter into a contract with Village Brewster to provide legal services to the village. This agreement is effective January 1 and 1-year agreement in the amount of $12,300. There is emergency language on it because the effective date was 12 days ago. Any questions or discussion? Mr. Ferris?
I have one question that's partially just related here. But I know our law director was just made full-time. Was she employed someplace else before this? Or she was only part-time here? I mean, is that?
Ms. Castle did have prior employment, but now she works full-time in the city. Any other questions? All right. Please appropriate $41,300 from the unappropriated balance of the 1401 capital fund to purchase a staff vehicle that was scheduled to be purchased in 2019, but was delayed to 2020. The funds to purchase this vehicle are appropriated in 19, but were never spent. They have to be returned and not reappropriated. This vehicle has been ordered and should arrive at the dealership within 30 days, hence the need for emergency language. Essentially, this is something that was supposed to happen last year, got pushed into this year. Please prepare an ordinance appropriating the unappropriated balance of the Community Development Fund 1203. This appropriation is needed to expend carryover grant funding from previous years. The funds are to be appropriated as follows: $71,788.13 in clearance and demolitions, $37,637 in downtown street improvements, and fair housing is $1,926.23. This is all part of our CDBG funds from previous program years. For those of you that are familiar, there's always an overlap between our years and CDBGs, so there's often this push forward a lot of times. We do have Samantha here that can speak, and if anyone has any questions about this this evening. She did write me a lovely email to prepare us. So thank you for that. I got it. All right, I'll go ahead and sign it, and with this request for emergency. Request legislation authorizing the Director of Public Safety and Service of the City of Massillon to exercise the option to renew the engineering contract with OHM Advisors for standard engineering service, planning service contracts, professional design service, and private sector development. There is a request for emergency language so that the contract will take effect in 2020, and I would ask Ms. Sylvester to please report. Could you just give us a general overview of this contract and any changes that may have occurred?
Yes, the contract that is in front of you then is a renewal as it's stated. This is for OHM, our engineering firm. Dave Cock and Jason Cofield both are here this evening if you did have any additional questions for them. In reviewing everything and also getting it approved with our law department, the overall contract, their increase this year going forward is, the increase was $2 per hour. We did also increase their hours to 20 hours per week. I do have a breakdown of all of the hours that Jason did work for us last year, and he averaged over 20 hours actually per week with all of the projects that we had. As you all know, we had quite a few projects last year. We had quite a few issues even with our storm sewer systems and so forth in the summer. That does not include Dave Cock's time either then, so that's why we increased it to the 20 hours per week for the assistance with the project.
And this contract replaces what we used to have as the position of chief engineer, is that correct?
That's correct.
And why, we have other people in the engineering department that have engineering backgrounds. Are they not able to fill all of these responsibilities?
That is correct.
Can you explain
And
that?
Dave Cock could probably tell you each and every one of those that has to be signed off by one of their positions that we don't have in our engineering
It's a
department.
certification or
It
an
is.
education level
Yes,
that we don't personally employ.
yes, you are correct.
Do you know what the cost of a chief engineer would be or was estimated?
I do not, with benefits on it, I was not here. So I do not know, I don't happen to know what it would be at the current time. Put that all together with benefits and,
I'm trying to recall, I think it was getting close to like $90,000 or so. In the mayor seems to be right now, by the ballpark, $90,000, just for reference. Are there any questions regarding this contract? Mr. Barrett?
Yes, I do have a question, serious questions, I suppose. We have 2 part-time in the city that help on our staff, and then OHM.
on our staff,
Yes.
we have 3 full-time,
3 full-time. Okay.
correct, Greg?
And then OHM is now the chief.
That's correct.
So I guess one of my questions is, we're paying 3 engineers and an engineering firm to do our engineering, planning, and oversight work. Why are we outsourcing?
Well, just as Mr. Lewis explained, there are certifications and so forth that their firm does have to do for us on our behalf.
Well, I meant for all these streetscape projects and the management projects, if we already have all the engineers that we need, why have more?
Those are additional projects for our cities. That's not the day-to-day operations of persons coming into our city and getting permits that they need, getting drawings, doing zoning research.
We don't have a drawing certified drawing reader here.
Pardon?
We can't certify drawings here except the Stark County, isn't it?
No, I'm not referring to drawings. I mean, if you want Greg McHugh to come up and give you a background on all of the work that they do,
That'd be great.
in addition, come on up, Greg. And then we can have OHM come up, and if you want them to explain in more detail, I know they have everything broke out in the contract, but if you want additional detail,
I was reading.
we can have them do that as well.
Thanks. Currently, we employ 3 full-time staff. I'm the only one that's degreed. I have a background in civil engineering. We also have another staff that has a background in design and state of Ohio work, and another one that has his associates in civil engineering and surveying. As part of the engineering department, in order to receive grants, do any surveys, and those type of things, all have to be done by a registered professional engineer or surveyor, which none of us have that license. So that's where we're at with the 3 of us. Day-to-day operations, we handle permitting, inspections of all city work. Living on the side of the Lincoln Way Streetscape work, that was all contracted out because of all the other work we have going on between utilities, street paving, storm sewer work, catch basins, and all those type of things.
No, I know you guys are busy, and I appreciate also the hiring of the OHM as an overseer or certifier. My question goes beyond that. Once we have all that in place, no malintent, why do we need an outside engineer to design our projects and oversee?
We do some design in-house
Okay.
on some projects.
So some of this, whatever's imagined that's than you folks have.
We had some of that capability. We actually did some of the review a little bit after those plans were designed. On a $2 million project, it takes more than a staff of 1 to put that together. Like I said, we're a staff of 3 and we're already short. So between inspection and the design part of it. Any major project, the road projects, it's just paving, those type of things, we do put those together, but we still got to go out and do, look at the roads, put those roads together, put, all the spreadsheets and those type of things. So all that's got to be done. There's just not enough time in the day sometimes.
So then OHM takes,
They pick up some of that slack where Jason will be here a couple days a week, put 20 hours in a week. I work with Jason on all these, Jason's, I believe, certified in stormwater. So, that's an asset to us here in the city. Every year in March, April, we have to put together our stormwater permit through the EPA. That's something, we can put it together, but it has to be stamped and certified by an engineer. So those are just some of the, other little things.
thank you.
Ms. Vick?
And even though,
Go ahead.
even before, when we did have our own chief engineer in-house, there was a lot of things that we had to contract out, correct?
There were.
Okay, so we weren't ever doing
No,
everything in-house.
That's correct. We actually did some design in-house, but we did hire out
So
to
like,
other engineering firms to do those projects.
like major projects,
Major.
such as something like the streetscape.
Streetscape, Wales Road, those type of things. Some of those bigger development type projects.
Ms. Lubin?
Can I ask what we have paid OHM in 2019?
In 2019, the current contract was $50,400.
Thank you.
Thank you. To kind of tail on what Councilwoman Litton said, I just looked on the open checkbook on the city's website, and it says OHM advisors total for all years $681,000. Do we know what that is all for?
Dave, you want to speak on that?
So the standard contract goes to $50,400 for 2019. The additional funds primarily, I would say, were for Wells Road. Wells Road design is in full gear, so that would involve both OHM as the prime consultant as well as all the sub-consultants working for us on that, which was paid 90% by about 10% by the city. So that was probably where the bulk of that work came from off the top of my head.
I'm just looking at the chart, and the little teal dot on the bar graph says Public Works, and 2018 was obviously very large, 2019 was, 2017 smaller. I know that we talked about the 90,000, whatever it was for an engineer, but I've looked at this before, and I figure I'd mention it just to get some clarification for the others as to where the rest goes, how we get from 90,000 a year to 681,000 total.
That would be where it's from. It's from anything that would fall under task number 3 on our proposal on this contract. And those would be items where there would be a separate contract approved by council.
For the design.
For the design of something.
Certain project.
Some things could have also fallen under task 4 where there were private developments that may have gone on in the city where things needed to be inspected. We often augment the city engineering department because they are short-staffed when things really get going in the summer. So there could be a couple areas there, Mr. McCain, that I can move on.
Thank you.
Ms. Green?
Safety Service Director, how many hours was the previous agreement per week? Because I know this current agreement is 20. You said we increased it. So what was the number of hours weekly on the previous?
It was 16 hours,
16.
but he averaged over 20 hours.
So on the fee schedule, we have a dollar amount, monthly dollar amount. That's based on 20 hours, or is that a flat rate? Because it's stated that 20 hours a week is average. So if Jason works more than 20 hours, are we paying additional fees? I just kind of trying to get a better understanding if this is a flat fee. Or
So that is a flat fee, but just with what Mr. Hearn King and David Crott were referring to, under those other tasks, they're included in there. If there are other projects, those would be separate from the standard. But the standard is flat. Even for last year, that was just what we paid, even though he worked over that amount of hours.
Any other questions? Is there any discussion related to whether or not we want this to have first reading, or do we want to go ahead and move this forward for a vote on Monday? Would council prefer more time for review or I'm going to take silence as going ahead and move it forward for a vote on Monday. The last piece I have for finance is a transfer. Anything that comes through as a transfer goes into action as soon as it is signed, so it will not be on the agenda this evening. It does come from, or for next week, it does come from the engineering department. They want to reduce their services and contracts by $385,000. And they will be putting $100,000 in Spring Hill, $225,000 in St. Andrews drainage, and $60,000 into storm roadway repairs. This is the realignment of the 2020 budget for engineering department's projects reflecting the proper account. As you may recall, a couple of years ago, we gave the previous safety service director a hard time when he attempted to have a huge sum that's unmarked as a particular project, so I think this is part of that response of naming exactly which project address. Spring Hill, we have been working on, as you see, it's in phase 3, same with St. Andrews. We started with that last year, Christina, that we started working on St. Andrews. And I believe Spring Hill's probably a couple of years in already. Are there any questions or discussion about that? I'll be signing that once I get 1 or 2 members' signatures on it as well. That will make it go into action. With that said, that is all I have for finance.
What about me?
What's that?
You forgot my movie, Bob?
I didn't have it in my packet. Did I?
You should. Just want to make sure I feel that job.
That means the- Oh, I don't have it. What you might have. Do you have one that you need me to sign or can I just use this one?
Did anybody else get it?
Yes.
Page 28.
Not a folder. All I'm saying.
It's not important.
So every new council term of 2 years, we have to reappoint or not reappoint, I guess, our clerk, Ms. Rowland. And we usually do that at the second meeting of the year, which, by the way, will be the 21st. And all we do is vote as a resolution to keep Ms. Rowland on as our clerk. Are there any questions or discussion about that this evening? Ms. Gassett?
Yes.
We currently have this draft without request for emergency language, but given her employment already started in the year, should we have it in?
I can suggest that, yes.
That's all. And that is all for finance, community development.
Thank you. I have 3 pieces tonight. The first 2 deal with Duncan Plaza, but I'm just going to hit on ordinance number 2 that we gave first reading to last week. That is the rezoning of the parcel at 424 First Street for Habitat for Humanity to develop. I think I'm just giving this 3 readings in case there's any concerns from the general public, but I have heard none. Any questions or concerns on that one? Okay. I know the mayor would like to present the current plan for Duncan Plaza to council, so the new members can now be brought up to speed, so we can go ahead and go.
Good evening, members of council and members of the audience. Thank you for being here this evening. We have done this once already in 2019, but because we have new members of council, we're going to reiterate the plan and the timeline that we've established for Duncan Plaza. The first thing I'd like to say is this has been started clear back in September of 2016, and this book that I have here designates every meeting that we've had, everything that we've done. The Planning Commission saw the proposal on June 14, 2017, and you have this timeline in your packet as well, so you can look along with me. Council approved resolution number 6, committee of the whole, all 9 voting yes to adopt the Imagine Downtown Massillon plan in July 17. In October 17, Duncan Plaza Renaissance project kickoff meeting with John Picard. November of 17, John Picard presents the plan to council. December of 17, we received an initial cost estimate for John Picard at $1,537,000. Also, during a regular Park and Rec board meeting, the City of Massillon Park and Rec Board agreed to support the Duncan Plaza Renaissance project as follows. Mr. Greer moved, seconded by Mr. Hawkins, for a 5-0 vote. Also, in December 2017, we submitted our project to the Capital Bill appropriation request for the state of Ohio. On March of 2018, we presented the project to Stark Community Foundation. That was John Picard, Steve Pedro, David Maley, and myself. And on May 9th, 2018, we received a letter from Stark Community Foundation advising us of the foundations that would accept and support the grant proposal. The Paul and Carol David Foundation at $250,000, the Hoover Family Foundation at $50,000, and the Stark Community Foundation at $100,000. On June 29, 2018, we were awarded $750,000 from the State Capital Appropriations and Reappropriations Committee. July 16th of 2018, the City of Massillon Ordinance Number 76 passed unanimously, accepting the $50,000 grant from the Hoover Family Foundation. September 4th, 2018, City of Massillon Ordinance 103 passed unanimously, accepting $50,000, excuse me, I just read that. On 9/4/2018, Ordinance 103 passed unanimously, accepting $250,000 grant from the Paul and Carol David Foundation. And 9/17/2018, Ordinance number 114 passed unanimously, accepting $100,000 grant from the Stark Community Foundation. I want to reiterate that this project does not touch Veterans Park. It is only going to butt up to it and enhance that park. And I've worked with our judge to bring in the Purple Heart, the Blue Star, and the Gold Star memorials. We also have compromised on this project with the judge leaving the fountain in place. We've also taken his suggestion of having turf changed to grass because of the ability of someone to damage the turf, and it's very expensive, so we've incorporated that instead. And then also, we are going to allow for the water fountain designated in honor and memorial of Perry Sturgeon. Restrooms, as you know, are already underway with the plan, and they're going to be ADA compliant. Okay, the next slide. This is the Massillon Planning Commission, where they approved the minutes, and on there was the downtown land use plan. On June 14th, the downtown land use plan description is the Imagine Downtown Massillon project, and was shared with them how we has taken a long time to get through our project to get to this stage, and it was passed unanimously by the Planning Commission. Okay, all of these are the drafts of the downtown project. Go ahead, David. Those are just for your view. And the one, go to the next slide. This space here was our initial design, where we really wanted to take on and purchase a building that was on First Street, and then the plaza was going to roll into First Street and across the street. But that was our very first initiative, very first thought, and that has not been able to happen as yet. And so when we designed this for the new rendering, that was not included. So I just wanted to clarify that was just the thought initially, but that property is owned by someone at this time, and we've not been able to acquire it. Then you'll see all of the resolutions that I spoke of, Resolution 6, Ordinance number 76. Those are all listed there for your purview to see that everything was already presented and accepted by the past city council. And some members are still seated as council members. You can see a list of all of the presentations for capital projects listed and who received those projects. And as I stated before, the Jackson Township was also listed to receive capital dollars, and their project is almost complete. Ordinance number 77 was the $10,000, and that was donated by First Energy Corporation, and council did accept that as well. And that's just for additional dollars. If we want to add tables and chairs to the project, we'll be able to utilize those dollars in that aspect. I wanted to also share with you, we had a letter from Jane Ferrero, our auditor, Andrea Escasa, our law director, and Maud Slagle in support of the project. And that's what you're going to see next, is all letters of support for the project. The Park and Rec Board, David Harding, who is the past chairman, wrote a letter on their behalf. Mr. Hurricane, who's now a council member, wrote a letter on behalf of West Ark Chamber. Doug Weatherby and Stan Sidaway also wrote letters on behalf of the Massillon Association as well as Massillon Main Street. The CIC also wrote a support letter and was voted on by the CIC and signed by Mr. Philip Beelam. Alexander Nicholas Kuhn, our executive director of the Massillon Museum, wrote a letter of support as well. And DeVille Developments, Patrick Serpilla, also wrote a letter of support. So this project was brought forth to seek support, to seek those that may have an opinion that are close by, or an organization, or important people, as far as the chamber, the museum, the CIC, Main Street, Downtown Massillon Association. Everyone was on board with the Imagine Downtown Massillon projects as well as Duncan Plaza. And so I just wanted to share with you all of those letters of support, because it's not something that we just did at a whim. We worked at this project to secure dollars, and those dollars were secured because a budget was presented to the entities, and the budget that was presented showed that the city of Massillon would have skin in the game, that the foundations had skin in the game, and I will tell you, foundations will not give unless the entity requesting the funds have some skin in the game. And that meaning that we have put in dollars as well. When we first started out, we were going to split this with the Park and Rec Department, $125,000 each. That seemed to be a constraint for some of you, that you did not want us to use Park and Rec dollars, so we changed that, and we are able to take the $250,000 from our capital carryover, from our carryover account. And so we are really trying to work with all of you, but this is a extremely exciting time for the city of Massillon. I cannot tell you how many compliments that I get for our Imagine Downtown Massillon project, that they think our project is extremely beautiful. It's really attracting people to want to come downtown, and that is part of the Duncan Plaza project as well. And at this time, I just wanted to bring up a gentleman from the Canton Chamber of Commerce, Denny Saunier, and he's going to talk a little bit about economic development and what this could mean to the city of Massillon. Thank you, Denny. Yes, you can stay there. You can come on up.
Whatever is convenient for you.
Come on up. You can, that way you can see their faces. You won't have to speak to their back. Thank you.
Well, good evening, and thank you for the opportunity to just say a few words, hopefully, not only about economic development from a standpoint of you know, manufacturing and business like that, but more specifically economic development because of the importance of urban development in the center city. I want to thank the mayor for extending an invitation. I want to compliment the mayor on her leadership and being reelected, and also being, I think, about person of the year, which is quite an honor, so thank you. I also want to say that my comments are really based on my thinking and what I know about the project and the process we went through in the city of Canton for Centennial Plaza. When the mayor asked me to speak, I know very little of the specifics of the mayor's idea. And I know that there is some ideas put forth by Judge Elam, and I know very little about that. And I just want to be very clear that I am not here to pass judgment or opinion on either of those. I also want to say that the judge is a friend. Our daughters are very close. They're sorority sisters, and I work very closely with the mayor. So I have no other opinion in this than to represent what I think urban development and urban, the economics of the center city being to a community. You know, the presentation, I will say, brought back a lot of memories. John Picard, who's sitting here, was the architect of our building that we moved into in 20 years.
Yes.
Which is hard to imagine.
We haven't aged at all.
Within.
We haven't aged at all, you and I.
Yeah. And you know, I say that because that was a major decision. It was a major decision by our organization, a major decision by our members and funders for that. And it really started a process that I believe, that at least our organization believed in, and that is, you know, think differently, think of the value that you're really worth. Because before that, we had a very nondescript, very, very dysfunctional building that we worked in for a long time, and we thought that that's what our work was. When we moved into that building, it was an exponential in value that we started to be seen as in the community. From day one, urban development was a priority with us. Now, our organization, and here I have to give you this background to appreciate this. Our organization has about 1,900 business members. The far majority are outside of the city of Canton. But we believe that center cities represent the feel of the community. And we're not in competition with the mall, we're not in competition with other cities. But the center city is the hub of what a community is. You know, I mean, that's where it happens. And so, you know, you see cities across the country, not just here in Stark County, really looking at how do you redevelop that feel, that energy, that ability to bring people together again. And that's what communities really are. I had a new phone thing, excuse me, I don't know how to use it. So, you know, what our goal was is to start to extend urban development. We had a building that had been functional for years, which was the Kresge building. Everybody remembers Kresge's 5 and Dime. Well, you know, because of market conditions and 5 and Dimes were no longer, you know, really vogue anymore, the building closed and it was shuttered. And it was right on Market Avenue, our main street, downtown Canton. And it became a true eyesore. And graffiti was painted on it. And you know what, quite frankly, we lived with that. We lived with that for several years. And as businesses were exiting, as people would not come down, as there were no services downtown, restaurants were not downtown. You know, the community started to say, well, why? You know, why are we declining? Why can't we keep people? Why can't we attract people, young people, talent that all communities So, just one aspect of that, and this is where I want to focus. That building, we finally, as a community, the city leadership, the business community leadership, had that building torn down. When it was torn down, what became of that was basically a square block of unutilized space. Being the way that we were, we even argued over that one block of unutilized space and divided it into some hard surface parking and some grass. The vision at that time, because there was no money, there was no real vision to the future, was let's plant a few pine trees and put some picnic tables there. And that's what we lived with. And that's what we thought we perhaps deserved. Well, when you could not still attract people and attract businesses and retain, and young people didn't want to become involved, we were able to do some things. And that's where Arts and Stark is an example, like First Fridays. And so as we saw, the community saw it, the city saw it, the ability to bring people downtown, after many years of not being able to do that. And by the way, I want to compliment you on your downtown. It's a beautiful downtown, and the streetscape is beautiful, and whatever plan you choose, I know will just continue to enhance, really the beauty of downtown Massillon. But what we finally were able to do was get a consensus that something had to be done. And the city took the lead, which I think that's what the city leadership does. The business community got behind the effort, and we said, let's look at what really, let's not put any dollars on it right now. What can we really do here that we deserve? And the debate started, and that's good. The debate is good. I heard a lot of questions tonight from City Council, and I know there's some debate on the two different projects. But in the end, what we determined was that we have these opportunities. We have to seize opportunities. We're the home of the Pro Football Hall of Fame. We have this centennial coming up of being the city that is the founding city of the National Football League. And, I don't want to get, we all should embrace that because it's all one large region, even though we're broken into smaller communities. We should all embrace those opportunities, and I think we all can. But what we said is, let's do something finally that was really monumental and really for the first time had a connection to the Hall of Fame. For 57 years, we've really never had a connection, a true connection to the Hall of Fame, nor to the NFL, which when you think about it is, shame on us. So the city hired an architectural firm, MKSK, out of Columbus, Ohio, renowned in their achievements. And the design came forth that, I will be honest with you, the first design was not a design that everybody embraced. As projects happen, and John, you go back and forth, and I heard a little bit of that tonight from the mayor with your Imagine Massillon. And we came up with a final project that everybody that was behind could really digest and support. And that's what we have today. We have a project underway in downtown for the first time that really marries a connection to the Pro Football Hall of Fame, to the Hall of Fame Village, which just received, in today's, at least on the line today, multi-million dollar investment in Constellation Energy for its Center of Excellence. A hotel has been purchased downtown because by the village, and I think largely because they saw this major project and the city continuing to move in a major way of attracting, retaining, and really putting a standard forth that has never been put forth before. I'm not going to kid you, this was not without some controversy or not everybody was for it. But this is a $12 million project that has already won a design award, that is designed to bring people visiting the Hall of Fame in the village and elsewhere into a center city. It is, the components are 75-foot spires that replicate the rotunda of the Pro Football Hall of Fame, a major stage, an amphitheater with state-of-the-art lighting. It'll have a restaurant. Within the restaurant will be an oculus in which a light will shine through that will go as a searchlight beam into the sky, marking where this is. There'll be kiosks that will bear the name of every person, every male, every gentleman who ever played a game of professional football. Imagine that. Imagine the families that will come and want to visit. It'll have state-of-the-art lighting surrounding the entire block, paved streets. It'll have a beer garden and fire pits. It'll have a secondary stage for smaller events. And I tell you this because we could have stayed with the green space, a few picnic tables and a couple, what I would call dying pine trees, and lived with that. Or we could have thought, let's think big. One of the investors in this, one of the people who raised money for the project, that being Ted Swallow, who owns Gervasi and Twisted Olive, helped us raise private dollars. His comment was, go big or go home. And, based on what Ted has been able to do in his business, he's been extremely successful. And so that's what we've done. We've come up with the idea of go big or go home. Let's make this a landmark location. Let's utilize it to its fullest, for the first time to really connect with the internationally known Pro Football Hall of Fame that is attracting more and more people every year. The village that is being built, which will attract thousands of more people every year. And other development, such as you have going on in downtown Massillon with restaurants and housing and retail. So, at least it's my belief and our organizational belief that this was something we wanted to get behind. And we challenged our board, we challenged ourselves to advocate for it. And I think that we made the right decision on that. One thing I will mention that I think is the most important ingredient, and I urge you to think about how you put this into everyday practice, and that is, what is the program? What will take place? Because you can build facilities like this. You can build, places to gather, but you have to have a reason for people to gather. Some of it will be organic in just a day-to-day activity, but you have to have something that will bring people to it on a regular basis. And if you don't, then I think it's money that it's been perhaps well spent, but not strategically spent. And again, with your restaurants, with your retail, with what's happening in downtown Massillon, I think you have a great opportunity. Whatever you decide moving forward is something that will enhance already what you have become and started. So, that's how we look at it from the standpoint of our organization and the involvement. I can see our project right out my window. It's created a lot of excitement and energy in the community, in the arts community, in the entertainment community, visitors community. And I think in the end, we will see that we made the right decision that will spur other economic growth in the community. So, that's really what I believe. Economic centers are your center cities. We have to support them. We have to build them. And we have to, I think, really be innovative with them. So, thank you.
bring up David Croft now, and he's going to talk about a little bit about ADA compliance and the structure that we have today.
Good evening again, Council. Really 4 things I wanted to touch on, and this is really from the engineering department's perspective here. We'll talk a little bit about the existing facility. We'll talk about Massillon, the proposed design, how that fits. Talk a little bit about the state grant, and then finish up, talk about the city's design and construction process. So if you look at the existing facility we have, it's 40+ years old. Remarkable, really, how well it's done through those years. But it's really nearing its end of its useful life in terms of the materials and the construction that's out there. The concrete, the asphalt, if you walk around and look closely, you'll see there's some deterioration there for sure. And this deterioration certainly would accelerate over time. It's like any street you see, once potholes start to show up, you'll notice it more and more and more over time. This plaza, certainly was built also before ADA, before the Americans with Disabilities Act even came into existence. So it certainly has a few issues. We've kind of outlined about 4 of them specifically that don't meet ADA currently. There's a ramp to the lower plaza, which exceeds the slope, doesn't have handrails. There's curb cuts from First Street that are not the right size and slope. There are steps, the steps to the plaza itself, not the lower plaza, there are no handrails there. That is a requirement of ADA. And really the stage is not accessible at all from the ADA standpoint. And all these things are also Ohio Building Code requirements as well, so things to pay attention to there. The stage location, the current stage location, faces the opposite way really of the proposed plan, so it does tend to limit the amount of audience that we can see there. From the Imagine Massillon standpoint, when we think about that, we think big picture with the proposed design. Some of the things that the Imagine master plan really looked at for Duncan Plaza was to reorient the stage location, put it in a location where we could get a larger audience, larger capacity. We have viewing out towards First Street, towards Charles. You can imagine what that would look like. So we're certainly going to expand that. One better links paths to both the museum, to Charles Avenue, to Diamond Court, Veterans Memorial, all those were important. And then, of course, to have no impact on Veterans Memorial, also the key components of the Imagine Massillon master plan. What that master plan also talked about was upgrades to Charles, upgrades to the alleys, and continuation of the streetscape project. All those are part of Imagine Massillon to go along with Duncan Plaza. So those things would still come in the future. They would come out of different buckets of funding than what we see here. For example, Streetscape had 2 different types of funding that really would not apply to the plaza and vice versa. So as we look to Charles and other projects in the future, we're going to see different kind of funding. As far as the state grant, I think there was a question at the last council meeting about how was this grant awarded? Could it be reappropriated? So to go down that line a little bit, this grant was awarded based on a design that the city had submitted with a certain cost, certain purpose and need that went along with it. What is the city going to use it for? It was for major capital improvements. It's the capital funding budget that these funds are coming out of. So if we look to reappropriate these funds to maybe a different design, something that might, rework the existing plan, I think that the caution would be to come up with an alternate design. We have to be a little careful that it isn't seen as a maintenance project. So there's maintenance versus capital. I think that's an important distinction there. The last thing on the funding I would say is, there's time schedules, sunset provisions on all grants, and as this one is moving along, we want to make sure that we certainly use these funds in a timely manner, and that we don't also not use them for what we said we're going to. Either one of those cases, either not using them or misusing them, essentially not on purpose, but if they were used for something different than we applied for, certainly could hurt the city's ability to get grant funds in the future. And then lastly, just talk about the design and construction process. Whatever plan is set forth in Duncan Plaza is going to have to come to the city engineering department. We'll get an engineering review. Will then be followed by going to the planning commission. So there's a whole site approval planning process for the city's ordinances. There is with that, both the city's requirements as well as the building code, there is a requirement of a professional engineer and or architect to sign off on the drawings. This is really for the standpoint of public health and safety. So we're talking about a public space like this is important. Once the plans and all that are approved, it will go through the city's standard public bidding process. We follow how everybody's code for all of that. That's the award. How do we go to bid? How do we award it? Bonding, prevailing wage, all of those things. So I guess from the engineering perspective, I would just say we need to make sure whatever we do, we're following the city and state guidelines for both design, bidding, and construction.
Finally, John Picard is going to come up and address some issues for the new members of council and maybe for the members that were here last year, just to reiterate some of the thoughts that he had as far as the upgrade for the Imagine project phase 2.
Thank you, Mayor. Good evening, everyone. I think I've given everyone a new packet. It's very similar to the last one, but I want to start off a little bit different tonight, if that's okay. I'd like to talk a little bit about my firm's background. A lot of you don't know me because I didn't start here. I started, as Benny Saunders mentioned, in Canton, Ohio, where I spent 17 years. So my firm will be 24 years old this June. 5 years here at Massillon. I have 10 people on staff, and Dave, you're going to work with me on. So that's my new office, and I know some of you have come over and visited, so I'm showing that off because I like to show it off. I'm very proud of it. And I welcome you to come over. It was a large investment for me as a practicing architect, and it's very important to me. So our first home is First North, as you know, because I want you to understand a little bit about the importance of design to me, which is very important. Mayor and I have gone to a lot of meetings to present different projects over the last couple of years, and I always tell her that this is my best opportunity because I teach architecture at Kent, and boy, when I can teach other people who aren't students, I have a lot of fun. So bear with me, you're going to get educated tonight on some design. So it's also going to be a little bit of a shameless plug, but I think it's important you understand the kind of designer I am. So, Dave. This is the Shears facility on Millennium Boulevard. Very proud of this project because it is a LEED certified building. If you're not familiar with LEED, that's Leadership in Energy and Environmental Design. This is a platinum building. It is the only one in the world, by the way, the only one that's ever received this certificate. So something for Shears to be very proud of, and myself as a practicing architect. Dave, back to young people. Alan needed really strong, educated, smart young people. That's why this building. And again, Alan's a dear friend. If you ever like to see this building, it is first class and an award winner also. Okay? First North, Bob Gessner's new building and our home, scheduled to be awarded hopefully here soon. Again, this is Massillon's first A+ environmental building, the first one in Massillon. Okay? This is the park we built across the street from First North, and where most of my staff spends their summer. So I need to pull them in the daytime. It really came out nicely. It's shaded on one side and nice and sunny on the other side. Okay? And this is, if you're familiar, Massillon's new $2.4 million stadium at the middle school. Wonderful project, a wonderful engineering feat. Architecturally, it was great. We also built the concession stand now that you don't see in the photograph. It doesn't even look real in this photograph, so if you haven't seen this site, you should do this. This is, again, an amazing facility. Okay. And the Wright Flyer, I did not build the Wright Flyer, by the way. That was Orville and Wilbur. They get credit for that. However, I had to try to keep it from flying away because it wanted to take off. So this is another park that we did. I think everybody's familiar with. Very proud of it. And this is Westbrook's Veterans Memorial Park in Canton. Again, we were the designers on that, and it has expanded, as you know. It's grown over the years. We keep adding to it. And one of our last ones here, I do a lot of work in the city of North Homestead. One of the reasons why I located in Massillon because I can shoot right up 21 and be in North Homestead. We are currently working on a $44 million park renovation project. It's all their parks and their rec center. And they are also building an amphitheater. That's kind of some of the preliminary renderings of what we're doing. And this was my favorite this year. This is a deck. And I can't tell you whose it is. If you know, that's great. We've already won 2 awards for this deck. He's a very happy guitar person, and we built him a deck that looks like a guitar. So, okay. Thank you, Dave. So this is the current plan for Duncan Plaza. And I want to talk about some of the features, and I'll answer any questions, and also show you some more renderings. The Renaissance Plaza has a stage of 680 square feet. It is fully accessible to the disabled. It will also be permanently equipped with lighting and sound equipment. There are space for 620 lawn chairs in the center plaza area, inside that core area, and 150 to 200 additional seats on the garden walls. There are 3 seating options in the plaza. That is the 1 picnic tables that are kind of in the center of the plaza, the seating walls I just described, and then we have these elevated picnic areas in the gardens. And again, you'll see these better in the renderings. The elevated are kind of hopefully small conference areas. So if there's a meeting that you want to have, you want to be outside, you're not necessarily on the plaza, but you're in kind of a little more of a private space. The amphitheater, or the shape of the entire plaza, was developed for the view conditions, and I'll explain that a little further with another rendering. We're going to have solar powered lighting, maintenance-free urban trees. I think we talked about this one the last time I met. We're doing thornless locust and a drooping cherry, both very small leaves, very low maintenance trees. And the landscaping will also be maintenance-free. Best way I can describe this is come see our park at First North. We do a system with myrtle, and it takes a few years to take root, but after that's done, we don't need to mulch the beds anymore. So it really cuts down on maintenance and wear and tear. There's rain gardens at the bottom, and again, I'll show you some graphics of those. And these are more educational features. Our EPA requirements now request that we filter the water, the storm water. So, and we've turned this, and we did a project up in North Homestead where we turned this into an educational element. It's difficult to do on a plaza like this, but I think we can do some areas that make the plaza more environmentally friendly, and we show it off a little bit, educate it a little bit about that. There's also a quarter-mile walking path that goes around the plaza and around the memorial and comes back. We're hoping to add some signage to inspire us to all walk during lunch, that type of thing. And the plaza has been designed to expand into First Street, taking in Charles and Diamond Court. That's very important. Where we lower the curb, where people can walk from First Street right into it without stepping on the curb, making it fully accessible. There'll be a permanent holiday tree planted, so we're not setting a tree at the museum any longer. It'll be free to grow and become a permanent part of the park. And the rotary fountain, as we mentioned before, will be rehabilitated. It just needs a little bit of upkeep now and some love. So it will kind of. So these are renderings my staff put together, just different views of what the park would look like. Can everybody see these already? It's kind of dark to me. And Dave can just kind of click through them. So this is kind of looking at the main going back towards the building. This is from First Street, and you'll notice, I think you can see it, that there's no curb there. There's where the cars are parked. It'll just become part of the street, very important to the design. So the plaza has an expanding ability. This is looking back towards Main Street and the museum. And we'll view that way. You can see the theater kind of structure there, the covered amphitheater. Some of the the stairs. Now, we're very close to the Veterans Memorial in this shot. I think the next one, and it shows you the beginning. So that the walk that goes around the plaza brings you right to the Veterans Memorial. Okay? Right now, it's kind of a cold connection, quite honestly. It's a little more like a driveway. This is more welcoming, very pedestrian, good friendly. And going back towards the street again. This is the area that's the link between First Street and the plaza. You can see there are steps and these, again, these rain gardens that kind of create that buffer between the two. You can see the pavilion in the background there. By the way, the plaza will all be stamped concrete. Very low slope, just enough to get our amphitheater effect. All the memorial plaques that are presently in the plaza will be relocated to this area. We call it a memorial garden. We take those and make them a little more important and tie them right to the museum. So it's a little bit of history and knowledge. You can see it there. See, this is the alley. The back side of the pavilion or the half shell is kind of the service side. This is also the service side of the museum. This is where the performers can unload their equipment. So this is a very important side of it, and kind of tucked away so it's not uncomfortable to look at. Looking back into the big plaza. That now shown. That's kind of an overall view to give you a sense of scale how big a space this is. Again, if I have folding chairs in the plaza, it's about 1,200 people. Relatively comfortable. It's not so tight. It's a big space. So the top image just gives you, again, a view of the covered stage. The view to the right on the top there is the raised picnic areas. Again, this is inside the planters to kind of give you almost like a separate little space conference area. The lower left photograph there is from the corner of First and Charles, and you can see the red box is where the stage will be. So everybody out that far will have a clear view of the performers. And again, notice the image at the bottom is very important. That's the amphitheater kind of effect of the plaza. You can see there's a very low slope that gets you kind of to the dividing walk that comes down the center, and then it goes back up. The lines you're seeing are the vision lines. So the person in the seat, having someone in front of you, isn't looking at the back of your head. You're actually looking over. The performers are set about 4 feet off the ground on the stage. Okay. That's and I've mentioned it before, the performance shell or the cover is a pre-engineered structure. It was selected basically for its design and its cost. It's pre-engineered, so it was a little less expensive. So there are some views of that. And those are the two trees that we selected. Again, the thornless locust and the drooping cherry. Some of the solar-powered lights up on top, the bollards that will be keeping any kind of vehicles from entering the plaza, very important. The wall to the left there is just kind of an example of the seat walls. Unfortunately, it's not the best example. Lindsay Concrete, just north of us here, is making this kind of thing. We've talked to them and they can create our walls for us. Two things one last thing I want you to see is this gray area. This is the existing plaza, and the existing stage is kind of right there in the center. And the gray area is the view area, or the area of spectators. It can go on. This is the new plaza. The gray area, again, represents the area of spectators. So you can see for our concerts on Lincoln Way, we've made enough room to really celebrate those events and expand those events. Okay. Any questions? Yes, Ted.
What's the square footage of the stage?
Sorry, just that. 680 square.
How deep is it?
Right.
Bill, if you remember offhand?
Like 30 feet deep, I
I can give that information.
think. Thank you.
Other questions? Mr.
Yes, sir.
Chair?
Well, one thing, I understand you want to increase visibility of the stage dramatically, but do you understand, Tommy, not everyone wants to be in the muzzle glass, if you will. There's some people like almost sitting behind the stage because they came only to hear the music, but the socialize, play around, that kind of stuff. But that kind of takes that pretty much away from the stage.
Yeah, I think that obviously the further, that part of the plaza, that one big open area where I can see 1,200 people, there's space around it, and all of these islands, if you will, tree planters, they have two sides, so you can start to really move away from the stage if you choose to not participate in that. And again, we're hoping that First Street, Charles, Diamond, all become part of this plaza, that this expands. Yes.
Well, another concern I've had this past week, especially talking with folks up in town, they were told of a 3-month interruption in business, basically, on 90 days, and it went dramatically over that. Their concern is this going to happen again? And the business owners along First Street there will be pretty much shut down from construction equipment being in that area the whole time, right?
I wouldn't say there would be. There's no reason this project should go beyond the sidewalk line. So if it's a curb at First Street, I'd like that, if it were mine to do right now, I would say that's where the construction fence goes, on that curb, because that curb has to come out for us to achieve the design where you can walk from First Street right into the plaza. So First Street will not be closed by this project. We're not repaving First Street under this contract. However, we would like to replace that sidewalk, and we included that in this budget. So First Street would be left open.
Also, there was plenty of other sidewalks that were hopefully going to be taken care of in some of the, as an augment to this project. That need it. Yeah.
If you're talking about sidewalks beyond the one on First Street, you're probably referencing a separate phase. You have to remember, Madison downtown is a 3 or 4 phase project. This phase may not be speaking to those. I don't know which sidewalks you're talking about. If you're talking about ones that are more on Lincoln Way, that's a separate phase, separate project.
And when, is there a timetable, is there up in the planning somewhere?
That's probably going to be 2021.
That's when this one went.
You may just say 2021 for those that it wasn't on the microphone for Diane.
David, can we go back to the first plan image? I think that would help if anybody has specific questions. And then get out to the wall like that. I'm sorry. That'd be the first one. There we go.
Council members, any other specific questions for the mayor or for Mr. Picard? Mr. Lewis?
This is probably more towards the administration. I believe in the conversation at some point, did it come up that we have a date of sometime in March related to the, will you speak to that, or someone speak to that? Mr. Bailey, can you speak to that date, that $750,000?
I believe you stated it was the date we had plans submitted to the other one.
The State Facilities Commission, so Chicago, for the capital money. Yes. We did talk to the State Facilities Commission. They're recommending that we at the sort of the drop dead deadline would be the end of March to get this project to them with all the paperwork required as far as their application process.
What is that paperwork?
I'm sorry?
What is that paperwork?
Where?
What is it? When they say all that paperwork, what do you mean?
Well, they have certain paperwork you have to fill out and apply to them for the $750,000 that we would have to do as administration.
I guess I'm asking, does that include engineering review? Does that include, what does that include?
We haven't went through all the paperwork, but basically we can submit sort of what we have here, other drawings and stuff, talk about potential costs.
I guess the reason I'm asking that is because we've been working on this for over 2 years now. We've secured funding from the state, we've secured funding from four foundations, I believe, or 3 foundations. And now we find ourselves in a position where we have to get these applications in by the end of March, or we risk losing the $750,000, is that correct?
If we don't get it by the end of March, we have to resubmit and go through the legislative process to get the dollars reapproved.
With no guarantee.
With no guarantee package.
And so right now, the decision between council is continuing, moving forward with a 2-year-long project that's received multiple affirmations from city leadership. We're going to an alternative route, which quite frankly, so far we have, and I don't want to be disrespectful to anyone, but we have drawings. When asked about the cost related, it was stated to us that we would have to figure that out ourselves. This is just a suggestion. We have to sit down and do that ourselves. When it was asked about architectural or engineering, the same response was given. Now, is this council, knowing the pace that government works, confident that in 10 weeks' time, we will fulfill the obligations that the state's going to have for us and not lose that $750,000 to go with an alternative proposal? An alternative proposal which, while I see the merits in it, I do kind of agree with what her name just slipped me. Dave had very politely referenced, could be deemed as some as a maintenance project. Because there is no major change, there are no major upgrades. It is simply maintaining, updating some parts of the plaza that have started to deteriorate, and that's it. So it would be a double risk there, right? I mean, we'd have to run the risk of making sure we got all the elements that were required, completed in time, and were to be submitted by the end of March. And then we run the risk of Columbus deeming this as a maintenance and not a complete upgrade. In which both scenarios we risk losing $750,000. That's kind of where I'm at with this, is I think there's a lot of risk changing course at this time. Where currently we're looking at a potential $1.4 million upgrade to our downtown that is fresh, it is modern, it is attractive to young people, and we're going to get it for about $250,000. When you add that to the Massillon Museum, apparently has a $250,000 grant from the state as well, and that whatever money they put in, and then the 2.2 million streetscape, we're talking about a city that has $4 million plus over the course of 2 years, maybe 3 years, of investment in this downtown. I mean, I may not know everything about community development and business and whatnot, but I do know that investment begets investment. And when people start seeing $4 million invested in the downtown, they're going to pay attention, and they're going to start investing in themselves. In fact, just last week at work, I had a lady come up to me, and she told me of her daughter who runs a small business in the bar, and they're relocating in Massillon. And she said, Ed, your guys' downtown is wonderful. We love all the upgrades you're doing, and that is why we want to be part of it. So already we're seeing these small businesses paying attention and wanting to invest in our community. Why would we stop now and possibly squander away an opportunity? That's kind of something I want us all to think about. We are on the conference. I know for some of you it seems rushed. Unfortunately, we can't help that the deadline in March and office starts January 1st, but this is what it is.
Mr. Mayor.
Might be slightly off topic, but I can appreciate that. No disrespect meant to anyone. But my concern is that we made promises that we didn't keep before. We hurt a lot of people, and there's supposed clauses to help alleviate some of that. Where are we with that to helping that recoup the tens of thousands of dollars that they lost in business during this phase? First phase, thanks.
I think that is just slightly off topic, so let's finish our Duncan Plaza discussion currently, unless somebody from the administration wants to address that now. But I think we need to continue on this conversation, and then maybe we can get to that. Moving on.
Yeah, I didn't want to address that at this time, but I did want to say that this entire project started because we wanted to get the concerts off of Lincoln Way to keep traffic moving throughout our downtown. That is why we embarked on this, and it was something that was brought to my attention right away when I became mayor, and it was something that we couldn't even address because we didn't have any funds. I mean, as all of you know, we started with $416.79. So until we were able to start to address it, we put forth together a plan. Well, we had public meetings, we brought it to council, we brought it to Park and Rec. Everyone was on board, we accepted dollars, and it's very difficult, if not unethical, to go back or even change it today and use, I won't do that. I will not use dollars where I presented to foundations and then use them for something else. I can't do that. And as I said before, I've written many, many grants for the Golden Key, and you have to do reports. And in those reports, you have to justify the money that you spend and spend it on what you promised you'd spend it on. And so we've already done all this with the foundations, we've already done it with the state, we've presented to Senator Schuring, and now I believe he's Representative Schuring. They switch back and forth at times. And so what we've done is put our word out there, and my word is very important, and so I do not want to go backwards and try to recoup or change the plan at the 11th hour. And so if you have questions, we have representatives here to answer them. As you can see, we've selected a beautiful architect, award-winning architect. And even with Judge Elam, and I love Judge Elam, I highly respect him, but I've had many community members come to me and say, I respect the judge, he's a good friend of mine, but he's wrong on this one. Our community needs this amphitheater. And honestly, they don't want to come forward because they don't want to lose a friend. And I completely understand that. I don't want to lose him as a friend either, but I have to do what is in the best interest of our entire city and all of our residents here. And so I'd like to ask you to consider this and approve this plan. It's something that we've been working on not just yesterday, not just last year, for many, many years. And the foundations thought it was beautiful. They were excited for Massillon, and they got behind it and supported it, and the state did as well. So I'd like to ask council, at least 5 of you, to get behind this as well and support it for our residents.
I just wanted to reiterate, I had taken notes from a prior council meeting on the actual timeline, and I don't know if maybe Mr. Picard can confirm this. I've got, if approved, June 1st, you will send the bids, send the project out for bids, which should take about 4 to 6 weeks. By mid-July, the bids should be in, and you can start your analysis. I have September 1st as a start construction date with a project completion between April and May of 2021.
That's correct.
Thank you. I think that's, for such a large project, a very concise timeline. And again, I appreciate the ability to take the concerts off of Lincoln Way and be able to use them downtown, be able to have them downtown in the Duncan Plaza. I also think that it will allow for, once people are downtown for an event, they will be able to visit the other businesses in the area, whether it's for dinner, whether it's for drinks, whether it is to do a little shopping. Bringing people downtown, I can't imagine it hurting any of the surrounding businesses, even during the construction phase for that matter. Just comments.
Anyone else?
Yes. Thank you for your presentation, Mr. Hart. I did a couple questions. I know one of the concerns I've heard from community members, I should say the phrase I've heard and I've used it myself, I have to admit, is if it's not broke, don't fix it. So your design, can you talk to how much it would disrupt current utilities or how it affects current utilities and any concerns that would be as to creating a problem that we don't currently have?
Sure, absolutely. No, it's a very good question. The placement of the half shell pavilion, it has been selected because there are a lot of utilities going to this plaza, and they go kind of right through where that top planter is. So we've moved it very delicately to get it where we want and maintain the shape and maintain the amount of people we're looking for. Again, one of the things that Prof mentioned is that the concrete of the plaza today, from a maintenance standpoint, is 40-something years old, maybe 43 years. It has a lifespan of 34.3. Trust me, there are engineers out there that figure these things out. And you can start to see it out there today. So yes, we can do some repairs, and that's always good because we have some safety issues out there right now. But unfortunately, the acceleration is going to continue, and it's going to get worse, just like any road, like Dave mentioned. So from a utility standpoint, stormwater, those type of things, we really don't have any issues here. We're going to connect it to the existing. We're going to do a little bit of collecting of the stormwater because I really want our bioswales to be good for the schools so we can educate children on environmentally friendly issues. But for the most part, this plaza is built above. So we have to excavate to create the shape we need, but we're not digging down. Even the walls are kind of environmentally friendly. We're using something called a stone foundation, which doesn't pour concrete into the ground. It uses stone to give us that frost-free environment. So this is a surface project, if you will. Of course, there's excavation, but for the most part, we stay on top. We'll add utilities, lighting, power, those type of things as needed, of course, and that will be concealed in the hidden. Again, one of the things that is very near and dear to my heart, the 17 years I've been the state of Ohio's consultant on accessibility law, this plaza is not accessible to the disabled, and that really bothers me because we have a ramp out there that's a fall hazard and unfair. And unfortunately, the low part of the plaza that's there today is the majority of the space we can use for seating, and it's not accessible to the disabled. We got to take care of that.
Anyone else? We've gotten a lot of information regarding Junction Plaza. We've updated the new council members in case you weren't up to speed on everything that the council has been doing since about 2007. Obviously, this will be for a second reading next week, and we will continue the discussion at the next work session. That will take us into the first week of February for a vote on this, unless anything comes up before then. So if anybody has any questions or extra concerns or more discussion, have that ready for the next work session. Possibly email me and or the mayor or Mr. Maley if you have any major questions that we can give them the answers before the work session. It will help with discussions. There we go. That's all I have.
All right, the only other piece I want to bring up, but Mr. Perry, do you think at the next work session we could have a presentation prepared for the streets the street list that we were given last week for the 2020 projects? Presentation. Yeah, you can just tell them if you talk to the mayor, talk to the engineer about. Because I know that
I saw the list. I saw the list of the date.
you didn't get the list last week.
Yes, I got that.
Yeah, so this list here, I know that there's a couple council people that have some questions, but maybe the next presentation about what this is going to be and how these decisions are made at the next work session.
Sure.
I didn't want to just assume, so I'm just trying to go through you.
And real quick, if anybody has a question, email me, please. Greg McHugh, City of Massillon Engineering. Just email me. And then we'll get back with you, you'll answer anything. And for next council work session, I think we have legislation coming forward to go out the bid for the first phase, contract one. So if you look at your sheets you received last week, should say contract one in the top left. And there'll also be legislation for Samantha's community development CDBG funds for target area streets. So if there's any questions, just email us. We'll get back with you and have something for you next work session.
Are there any other discussion points this evening from the council?